2009 was a great time for movies. We got Watchmen, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and 2012, a movie about how in 2012, the world was going to end. I remember at the time this did actually cause some kind of stir on the internet, and it seemed like some people did believe it. Whether or not ironically, I'm not sure, but there was definitely something there. But to some people's disappointment, I guess, the 21st of December 2012 came and went, and nothing happened that year. It was treated like this was the first time that this had ever occurred, where it was predicted that the world was going to end. But there's been hundreds of times before this when it was supposed to have happened. And even just since 2000, there's been 17 times before 2012 when the world was supposed to have ended. There are still some current predictions on when the world is supposed to be ending, and I wanted to have a look at some of the more interesting ones. But first off, I wanted to go back and get some context for some of the other claims of the world ending and see how it was supposed to end even before today. The first one that caught my eye is from a group called the Fifth Monarchists, who are a Protestant sect of Christianity. They decided that in their present year, 1666, the world is destined to end. A bit of that was to do with the obvious Monster Energy logo in the year's date, but also had to do with the fact that at this point, the bubonic plague had killed about 100,000 people in London alone. Also, the Great Fire of London had come through in that year, which burnt down a major part of London. I actually hadn't looked at it before, and there's a lot of London got demolished through those fires. I think they went on for 4 days. Basically, that happened, and it left a lot of religious community. So that just happened. It left a lot of religious communities wondering what could be next in store for them. This one I like a lot. In 1806, a woman by the name of Mary Bateman, who was living in Leeds in England, claimed that her hen was laying eggs that on the side of it said, "Christ is coming."
Let's see Paul Allen's eggs. My God, it even says Christ is coming.
Mary, just as a side note, completely unrelated to whether or not she was trustworthy, is a known criminal who convicted many robberies in her time. When the hen started laying these eggs, she actually put them on display for the townspeople to see for a little bit of money. Eventually though, and this is why I like this story so much, the hen was taken away from Mary because they were like, okay, this hen is predicting the second coming of Christ. We must study this hen. And as soon as they took it away from Mary, the eggs stopped saying Christ is coming on them. It turns out what she was actually doing was the egg would come out of the hen, she would take it, write Christ is coming on it, and then shove it back up inside the hen. Why she didn't just leave the egg out and say, hey, look what just hatched when she's just written on it, who knows? She decided that even though nobody saw it, she should put the egg back up inside and then act surprised when it came out. Joanna Southcott was a woman from Devon, England, and at some point after 1774, she started saying that she was the woman of the apocalypse, which, for whatever reason, that's the name given to the Virgin Mary. The mother of Jesus Christ is known as the woman of the apocalypse. Southcott later said that she was pregnant with the new Messiah, known as Shiloh in the book of Genesis, and that the child would be born on October 19th, 1814. She later died on the 26th of December, 1814, after not giving birth to any child. She actually managed to get, I think it was something around 100,000 followers of her. Just sounds like I'm talking about like an Instagram model or something like that. She did a ceremony for what was supposed to be her birthing, which never took place because it actually turned out that she had some kind of disorder or disease that made her appear pregnant when she actually wasn't. This one isn't really as interesting as the other ones, but I just feel like I have to bring it up because we Aussies really don't get mentioned in much, and when we see our name somewhere, we get very excited. Like in the Flash movie where they said something about Sydney, I don't know. Didn't sign an NDA so I could say whatever I want about it. An Australian politician named Walter Marks walked into Parliament, which is the equivalent of American Congress, and told everybody that Armageddon would be coming in 1934, and that the Royal Navy would take Christ's chosen few and deliver them to Jerusalem. The next example is just super YouTuber of me to mention, but like, I feel like I kind of have to, because it's just really interesting to genuinely me, and I like the idea of this kind of psyche that it brings up, even though it's more than likely bullshit. The end of the world was predicted by a group of Redditors and scientists on Reddit to happen on the 5th of September, 2020. The thing that makes this really interesting for me is that supposedly this all started because of a shared dream that all these different Redditors had, and when they compared notes, They realized it was just all the same thing, leading to the end of the world. The date came and went and nothing happened, obviously, and the subreddit for it now is just kind of a place to just meme on the event in general. I can't tell how serious this ever actually was because the only posts that are on that subreddit now are from the 5th of September, and they're just talking about how they're currently surviving the apocalypse, so take from that what you will. So those are some of the earlier predictions of the end of the world, but I wanted to have a look at some of the future ones, you know, just as a public service announcement so that you can mark your calendar and get ready for the end of time. The next predicted date for the end of the world is the 13th of November 2026. This was predicted all the way back in 1960 by a man named Heinz von Forrester, who basically just said because of overpopulation, that date marks the end of humanity. And based on current trends that you're seeing coming out of the UN and everything like that, it kind of looks like we're hitting a bell curve for population, so I guess we might be fine. Just to be sure that I'm ready, I've got my jar of canned Heinz beans to have soldiers on toast. Is that what they called, soldiers on toast? The rest of these are more so just major cataclysmic events that are predicted by scientists rather than religious groups or tribes, so take of that what you will. According to the Geological Society of London, you better set your watch for the year 1 million, because within the next 1 million years, Earth is likely to undergo a super volcanic eruption, which is going to be big enough to erupt 3,200 kilometers cubed of molten magma. It just sounds like Trump. It doesn't even sound like Dr. Evil. Erupt 3,200 kilometers cubed of magma. It is. It is just Trump. It's not even Dr. Evil. According to that group, this event would be comparable to the Toba super eruption, which happened 75,000 years ago, and it caused the Earth to go into a 1,000-year cooling period. So much for global warming, am I right? If you do manage to survive that, then the next date you're going to want to set your watch for is the year 100 million. That's because it's estimated that every 100 million years, Earth gets hit by an asteroid that is around 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter. And if you want me to convert the kilometers to miles, no. The last time this happened, it wiped out 75% of all life on Earth. That is the thing that killed the dinosaurs. If we do manage to grow wings and survive that asteroid hitting Earth, the next event is kind of more so to do with the sun. The theory is that in the next 600 to 800 years, the sun is going to expand and start heating up Earth so much that it's actually going to accelerate how much of the Earth's crust it damages. What that ends up meaning is that there'll be less carbon dioxide in the air, which sounds good because if you have too much carbon dioxide, you will suffocate. You know what else you'll suffocate from? Not having enough air. Plants need carbon dioxide to make oxygen. And without that, we're kind of going to be on a planet that doesn't have any oxygen, which it's not good. Plant a tree. And you know, we can have oxygen reserves and whatever, but what that kind of knock-on effect means is that all of our vegetation is just going to stop growing, which means that we're not going to be able to grow food. So, you know, growing wings was one thing, but developing the skill to not need to breathe or eat is kind of another thing that, look, we're a tricky bunch, but I don't think we can survive to not eat. But in the off chance that we do manage to evolve to a point where we don't need to breathe or eat, we will be around for something that I think actually sounds kind of beautiful. I hope you're still marking your calendars, because in the year 7.59 billion, it is thought that the Earth and the Moon will start being sucked into the sun because of how big it's getting. Gravity. You know gravity. I don't need to do a demonstration for gravity, do I? Are you happy? What that means though is that when the Earth and the Moon are coming towards the sun, the Moon is likely to actually collide with Earth's at least atmosphere and break apart, which would end up making it form a ring around the Earth. There may be some debris that hits Earth. That may be another problem, but I feel like looking at a ring around the Earth, like look at this artist's rendition of what that would look like. That looks really nice. I like that a lot. Imagine, you know, look at the stars is very nice, but imagine you look up and you see the ring around Earth. There'd be places that wouldn't be able to see it. Dude, that would suck. We need something to one-up Europe. Europe gets the Auroras Borealis. We need to get a ring around the Earth. Come on, it's only fair. But if we manage to, I don't know at this point, like turn the Earth into a spaceship, put rocket thrusters pointed towards the sun and try and fly the whole thing away from it? I don't know. If we do manage to survive it though, it looks like pretty smooth sailing for the next 1 trillion years. That is until the year 10 Google. 10 Google is a number so big, it looks like this. It is the number 10 followed by 100 zeros. This is the estimated year for the heat death of the universe. And it's kind of like calling something flammable. The heat death means that the heat is dying, not that it's going to be so hot that it's going to be, you know, like big fire. It's a theorized event that may or may not take place. The current thinking is that it will take place, but they just can't put a number on it yet, so that's why it's so far in the future. It's complicated on how exactly it works. I looked up a simplified version of this and it goes, yeah, entropy. And I'm like, sick, I'm watching a Christopher Nolan movie. In its very basic form, from what I can understand, think of the universe like a car. The car keeps moving forward because it's got petrol. Eventually, the universe runs out of petrol and the car stops. It's not entirely accurate, and so I don't get comments. From what I read, it's that there's a whole heap of energy in the universe at the moment that's currently expanding out. Eventually, you're going to even out where there's no more energy that can fill any other part of the universe. See what I mean? It doesn't make sense. I can understand how that would make sense to somebody who knows the topic. What the fuck does that mean to anybody else, you know? It's kind of freaky, right, though? Thinking about the universe, this thing that we know nothing about, just one day stopping. The universe is so big that when we look into the furthest depths of the universe that we can, we're looking into the past because of how time works and how the speed of light works. And because of the delay in how far we can see into like the edge of the actual universe, it might just stop one day without any notice, unless we are able to see that, which, you know, we're talking about 10 Google. I like that I'm just starting to have an existential in this video. To be fair, an existential about the world ending, which, if there's one thing to have an existential about, it's not that, because it's not happening in your lifetime. You're wasting energy thinking about it. The most important thing, I guess, that I just learned from my existential just then is that there's been a lot of theories that have come and gone. Nothing's happened. Realistically, nothing is going to happen in your lifetime or anyone that you're properly related to. You know, you can date back to like somebody in Jesus times, but like, you know, when it stops being incest, I think that's when, you know, you start being like, maybe you aren't related to me. Maybe the world will end. Set your calendar for the 13th of November, 2026, and subscribe to the channel to stop the end of the universe. Otherwise, it's entirely your fault that it happened. Thanks for watching.
Subscribe or eat death.
Trying to fucking record here.